Greetings, everyone. It's another week with the VGC Draft League Season 2. So I want to take another look at replays for the week as matches for my group have already finished. Sorry if I sound any kind of low or unenthusiastic, trying to keep it down as a little bit of an uncommon hour here where I'm doing this recording. But just want to go ahead and get into it. We have the first matchup, Keystone Records versus Quaylectra. So as usual, let's just go ahead and take a look at the matchups first and then get into the actual match itself. So on Keystone Records side, as usual, I have confidence in the overall bulkiness of the team and the type coverage to handle just about any matchup thrown their way. And I think it works pretty well versus Quaylectra, where we're kind of expecting a trick room mode where try to move Torkoal into position to do most of the damage. But I think Garganical is going to be, both Garganical and Umbreon could be key players here to help stifle those efforts. Garganical, of course, having access to Wide Guard to stop Torkoal from using things like Heat Wave or Eruption. And Umbreon just being a fantastic utility to lower the special attack through those snarls. So even if Oranguru does set down the trick room, tries to instruct things, Umbreon's going to be able to, first of all, survive the damage because of its amazing special defense, and then get some drops through the snarl. You can even pair the two together in expectation of that pairing, Oranguru and Torkoal. Spam Wide Guard and Snarl, and there's not too much they can do about it. They could do Instruct Flamethrower, but again, Umbreon's spectacular special defense is going to allow it to survive that most likely. It can even use Moonlight, taking advantage of the sun and get that extreme heal off of Moonlight. Meanwhile, Garganical, you're not going to be able to touch it effectively with the fire type moves. It's going to have to try and use earth power to whittle it down instead, and even from there, Terra typing becomes a bit of a factor. Now, outside of that, we have seen things like Spiritomb used in Trick Room as well to kind of stall out the enemy team. I'm not sure how effective that will be. It could, like the Pain Split could come in handy to kind of whittle down the Umbreon or even the Garganical. But again, those recovery moves are going to come in clutch. Not really caring about the Will-O-Wisp on most of these players either. The Umbreon, because there's a lack of a relevant fake out user. There's Raichu obviously, but it's unlikely that Raichu comes to the party, so it doesn't necessarily need inner focus. So Umbreon could even run Synchronize just to cover for the potential of Spiritomb using Will-O-Wisp, burn it right back, and it makes it a little bit tougher for it to operate as well. This may also be a week where we finally see the Scovillain come out under Chlorophyll, because I don't think that that's too bad into Keystone Records team. Versus Garganical, you got the stab effectiveness before it decides to Terra. It's good into Arboliva, even Tauros if that decides to come along. Pretty good into that as well. Still have to try and get past the Umbreon. Again, I think that could be a key player if Keystone Records is thinking about it. But yeah, overall, like I give Keystone the advantage in this matchup just because they don't need too much to handle the strongest facets of Quaylectra's team, being that Torkoal, with just two players, Garganical and Umbreon. But let's see if they're on the same page that I am. All right, game one is here, and we have on Keystone Records side Skeledirge, Tauros, Water Version, Clodsire, Garganical, Arboliva, and Umbreon. Quaylectra opting for Torkoal, wow, Oranguru, Colossal, Mousehold, Zoroark, and surprisingly Komala. So there are a couple of things that we didn't consider here until we looked at this lineup. One of them being Arboliva. So obviously it looks a little bit weird having Arboliva up against something like Torkoal here. However, it does get access to Harvest. So in the sun, it could activate like a Citrus Berry, get it right back due to the Harvest, heal right back up, and continue to do that through the following turns. You pair that with things like a good Terra typing, and also it gets access to Wide Guard, not just Garganical, and it's access to Earth Power, and it's actually not a terrible option into the Torkoal team so long as you reserve the Terra typing for it. which it's well poised to do since Skeledirge, Tauros, Garganical all resist the fire moves from Torkoals. It's kind of the highest priority right now. And we talked a little bit about Umbreon having that amazing special defense to resist it as well. So it's pretty easy to, or potentially easy to reserve that Terra type for Arboliva if they choose to do so, and then just play from there. Over on Quaylectra's side, did want to talk a little bit about the Zoroark and the Colossal as well. Zoroark, really weird Pokemon to try and use, but with a little bit of skill, could catch some Pokemon off guard. So, for example, if the Zoroark is posing as like the mouse hole, for example, and they did decide they want to lead Arboliva later into the game, it could surprise it could surprise it with with flamethrower, since they're not expecting a mouse hole to launch out the flamethrower, right? And then we also have Colossal. If they do set up the Trick Room, it is one of the slower mons on the team. And then it can use that to its advantage as a Trick Room mon. However, its offense is generally lower than everything else, so it's going to need a little bit of help to get moving along. Let's see what the players do though. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Okay, Pokeballs are out, and we have Skeledirge and Clodsire leading on Keystone's side, and then Torkoal or Oranguru leading off on Quaylectra's side. And immediately we see a Dark Pulse into Skeledirge from what is definitely not Torkoal, definitely the Zoroark hiding underneath that disguise, as Keystone sets up Toxic Spikes and Roar. So pretty interesting strategy, especially in 2v2. It's going to get some residual damage down from the Toxic Spikes and just kind of shuffle around Quaylectra's players. Going to heal up with a Slack Off a little bit, take the Rock Slide, and then a flinch from Clodsire. So it's not going to get the second layer of Toxic Spikes down just yet, but it's pretty healthy, has some time to do so. Colossal can go ahead and Terra early here, Terra Grass, possibly predicting a ground move from Clodsire here, whereas the Zoroark still hiding is going to finish off the Skeledirge with the Night Daze. Colossal with the Terra Blast Grass into the Clodsire, not going to be doing too much damage, where Clodsire gets to heal up for free. Paldean Tauros comes in, Terra Fires here, pretty good to resist the resist any of the attacks coming from the Colossal here, minus the Rock Slide, but definitely not trying to use that into the fighting water type Tauros here. So pretty safe for this turn, Terra at least. Grass not going to come down, not doing too much damage still. Meanwhile, Tauros gonna launch in the Aqua Jet to finish off the Zoroark here. All right, another layer of Toxic Spikes comes down. So anything coming in is going to take that heavy residual damage from the toxic, not just the regular poison. The actual Torkoal comes in. It's going to protect this turn. It's at a little bit of a disadvantage here, as Tauros opting for Drill Run, just in case the sun comes down and reduces the damage that Wave Crash could do. It also saves it a little bit of health, so no recoil damage. So I think a pretty good option here. It's also pretty good, if Colossal hadn't used Terra already. It's going to be doing some extra damage into that, since there's a 4x weakness here. Meanwhile, we see the Arboliva come out for the first time here, while Colossal goes down finally to the close combat from the Tauros here. Now it's just down to the Oranguru and Torkoal. It looks like they're going to try and set up Protect plus the Trick Room. They're going to need some health to do that. They took a huge chunk from Tauros here. Arboliva, though, just content to set up the Leech Seed. No problem there. Tauros on life support with a special defense and defense down. It's not long for this world, but it's going to get a quick Aqua Jet down onto the Oranguru first. All right, Eruption coming down from Torkoal is going to finish it off. Meanwhile, Leech Seed, Toxic Spikes, it's going to take its toll on the Oranguru. So there's not going to be any threat of Instruct moving forward as long as it finishes off, which is it does. So the Protect coming in clutch for the Arboliva to survive these final turns here, as Clodsire comes back out. Stomping Tantrum, going to hit the Torkoal, who is under the pressure of Toxic right now. The Eruption, even in the sun versus Arboliva, now that the Torkoal is at half health, not going to do a ton of damage. Versus, well, it takes half of Arboliva's life. It's not going to close out the KO like it normally would. Meanwhile, Arboliva with the Earth Power going to finish off the Torkoal. So really well played game, I believe, versus through KeystoneRecords here. Like I mentioned, the onus is kind of on Torkoal do the heavy lifting for Quaylectra, and if you can't get that set up, you're gonna be on the back foot. Meanwhile, Keystone putting a lot of pressure with the early toxic spikes. Actually, I think played a very relevant part in taking down the Oran Guru. Otherwise, could have caused some problems with the Instruct Eruption at the end game. Additionally, with Clodsire being slower than the Torkoal, you got to underspeed it under the Trick Room, doing enough damage to reduce the power of Eruption, allowing our Believer to survive and help close out the win. All right, so there's going to need to be some adjustments to make this a potential game 3 here. So let's move on to game 2 and see what happens. All right, once more into the fray, Skeledirge and Clodsire. The toxic spikes worked pretty well last game. No real need to change up the strategy there. Meanwhile, Quaylectra is starting off with Oranguru and Mousehold, and it is the real Mousehold, not a Zoroark. So they're gonna try and just use Follow Me and Trick Room coming out. And unfortunately, the Skeledirge's Roar shuffles in the Torkoal into perfect position here. All right, so gonna have to kind of scrounge back here. Torkoal immediately gonna Terrifier to maximize its eruption damage. Almost knocks out the Clodsire, not doing too much into the Skeledirge here. The Instruct though is gonna close out the damage on Clodsire and get the KO. So no toxic spikes this time. Meanwhile, Earth Power from the Skeledirge taking over half of Torkoal's life. So we're once again back in that position where the eruption's not going to be doing too much here. Quaylectra though, running for their life, going to switch in what is the Zoroark here, mimicking the Torkoal. The taunt coming out from Skeledirge, so it can't slack off. However, the Arboliva is going to launch a Leech Seed, it's content to do so. We saw what happened last time where it was able to resist the low-powered eruption, but even then, Terra Water just to make sure that's not taking too much damage. It's the Leech Seeds, also the Zoroark. The Oranguru with After You, kind of a cheeky strategy there. It's going to help the faster Zoroark move first under the Trick Room, hopefully ahead of most of its opponents, but I believe it being slower. One of the slower Pokemon is not too worried here. It's actually sitting pretty well here with 2 Leech Seeds down, just going to soak up any damage that it can, heal it right back up with no issue. Umbreon coming in, using Snarl to reduce the potential damage that Zoroark could also do. Stifling all of Quaylectra's efforts here. They're going to have to get another Trick Room, possibly, just to try and salvage this, but even then, Torkoal is sitting at a huge disadvantage. Even with Clodsire gone, they're hard pressed to do any type of damage into the Arboliva without something like Solar Beam, which they will definitely need. If there it is, Solar Beam is the only thing that can really do some damage into the Arboliva right now. Looking for the Instruct to try and close it out with a 2 KO possibly, but KeystoneRecords smartly protecting against that damage. Just gonna finish off the KO onto Oranguru with Snarl, do some damage into Torkoal, goes down to the Leech Seed. This is a wonderful position and pretty much a full display of how bulky KeystoneRecords team can be, and the kind of stall strategy they can pull out to stifle the heavy offensive teams, especially ones that have all their eggs in one basket here. So as we continue the game though, Mousehold and the Zoroark are going to try and claw back here. So it's up to Umbreon and Arboliva, who are pretty well positioned here. Umbreon can just throw out Snarls, doesn't really care about the Follow Me. Mousehold, unless it has something like Population Bomb or Super Fang, it's not going to be doing too much into the Umbreon here. And we do see the Super Fang come out. They are hard pressed to do damage into this Arboliva, which is imperative at this stage of the game. Umbreon though, going to use Thunder Wave to slow down the Mousehold. Hopefully, get a full paralysis on turns where it wants to use Follow Me, so it can take out the Zoroark quicker through the Arboliva. But just through Snarl, it's going to chip away at the Zoroark, reduce the damage it can do, and Arboliva's special defense is already not a joke. So it was already going to do minimal damage, especially without an effective attack. So getting those special attack downs from Snarls really hurts it. And just going to go ahead and forfeit there. There was no recourse against this end game versus a very well insulated Arboliva and Umbreon. Well played to KeystoneRecords. I do think it was a little bit of a mismatch in just from the squad. You have to do a ton of heavy lifting with the Torkoal to be able to eat through the HP and resistances of this team, and factoring in the Terra typing just makes it that much harder. Um, Getting up the Trick Room was very crucial there. As we saw, that it took on the Clodsire, no issue, but being able to do effective damage into whatever's sitting beside it, whether it's Skeledirge, Tauros, or Garganical, you're not going to be able to pick up KOs quickly while KeystoneRecords just gets to run their game. Either way, fun games though. I really enjoyed that. Good luck to both players in the next week. The next matchup we have is Ryu and Whatshamidt. So the weather wars continue. This week it is rain versus snow. Now I want to give a little bit of edge to Whatshamidt in this matchup, just in general, because he has Amoonguss. I think that very well handles anything or most of the things that Ryu could throw out from the Rain squad, especially if they actually rely on Rain and Dragonite as they have been. Dragonite can toss out like Terra Flying, Terra Blast to help deal with the Amoonguss, but again, this is where Terra typing comes it comes as a factor, right? So the more that you have to focus your Terra typing on just one piece of the puzzle, the more of a deficit you're actually at, because then your opponent gets to do a reactionary Terra of their own defensively and gets to run their game plan. I think that that's what occurs here. If we're just looking at the main weather pieces versus the main weather pieces of each team, I think this is a week where for Ryu, actually things like Salazzle and Glamora could very well come in handy. Salazzle, helping to deal with the Amoonguss, whether that's just blasting it with overheat or using taunt so it can't use things like Spore or Rage Powder, and then trying to run your game from there, because Glamora overall into Whatshamidt's team, as long as it can avoid the Rage Powders from Amoonguss, I think it actually does pretty well. Got super effective stab damage into both Titan, Abomasnow, Tauros, and then Salazzle can cover you for things like Magnezone and Earthworm. Even then, you have Earth Power to actually deal with those. So I think the combination of those two could really do pretty well. If you lean on the Rain squad though, I think it's a lot tougher, because then you have to cycle Pelipper back in and out versus Abomasnow to try and clear the weather. You want to maximize the amount of damage that Dragonite's doing if you're doing the physical variant of it. Otherwise, you're using something like Special Dragonite, taking advantage of Hurricane, so you can get Abomasnow out of the picture quicker, but you still have to deal with Titan doing 4 times effectiveness damage into you. Even with multi-scale, it's a little bit of a tough pill to swallow. So yeah, that's where I'm thinking. I like Salazzle and Glamora into the matchup versus Whatshamidt. I think Whatshamidt can just run whatever game they want to. If they run the Rain squad, pretty well insulated. If they do run something like Salazzle, maybe you consider bringing Knucklestack or Tauros into this matchup just to account for that. Dragalge too, being super resistant versus anything Salazzle throws out, is also a pretty good way to kind of account for that situation. But let's see what happens in the actual match. All right, so we got game 1 open, and for Ryu's side we have Floatzel, Pelipper, Salazzle, Dragonite, Tinkaton, Stonjourner. On Whatshamidt's side we have Amoonguss, Titan, Abomasnow, Tauros Fire version, Flamigo, and Magnezone. So already we see on Ryu's side, like I mentioned, I think Salazzle was just something that there was incentive to bring along given what's on Whatshamidt's side. So that's one of the things I expected to see here. Over on Whatshamidt's side, seeing Magnezone coming in as a kind of a new player. I'm not sure if they brought it. I have to go back and check. It seems like one of the newer pieces, but as we mentioned before, they can just pretty much run Abomasnow to Titan. Amoonguss was just kind of an obvious bring into a Rain squad. Let's see how this one plays out. All right, and for Ryu, we're going to be leading off with Dragonite and Salazzle. So we're not going to see the weather immediately. Amoonguss to Titan from the other side from Whatshamidt, both players trying to feel each other out as far as what they want to do with the weather. Salazzle coming in with the fake out, but Amoonguss secretly carrying the covert cloak. So the fake out is not going to flinch and it's not going to prevent the Rage Powder from going off, whereas the Titan gets to belly drum as a result. Salazzle though, gonna use Overheat to clear out Amoonguss, and it has Eject Pack, so it's a special attack lowers that activates the item and allows it to switch. Dragonite with the Iron Head to clear out Titan, boosted by that power spot. That was a turn. That was very volatile there. Abomasnow and Flamigo are gonna have to try and come in to salvage this game. Flamigo with the close combat to try and take out the Stonjourners. Not quite enough, even though it does a huge chunk of damage. Meanwhile, the Rock Slide coming in, doing a ton of damage into Abomasnow, which is just going to be cleaned up by the Iron Head from Dragonite. It's all up to the Flamigo here, but the writing's on the wall there. Even though it picks up the KO with the Brave Bird onto Stonjourner just as a consolation prize, Dragonite just going to go ahead and clear out from here at full health. So that was a game. I liked the preparation from both sides. For Ryu, the Salazzle, like I mentioned, just in general, it looked like a good option into Whatshamidt's team, but also has Overheat Eject Pack, has some really cool tech to allow it to reposition. So stronger than a U-turn, quite the same effect as you get to pivot in, especially the Stonjourner, just the emergency pivot into the Stonjourner to boost any attacks from the Dragonite. Over on Whatshamitt's side, though, I like that tech, expecting the fake out, quite likely from the Tinkaton, using the Covert Cloak to stop any type of flinch there, and trying to set up Rage Powder into the Belly Drum from Titan. Just unfortunately, the Dragonite being faster after Amoonguss is taken out by the Overheat doesn't allow the Titan to get off an attack before going down, just making for a really disastrous end game. So we're gonna have to see some adjustments here, but where do you really go if that's like your main offense there? You're still gonna want to rely on the Amoonguss most likely. I mean, I say that as it's coming out, but like just in general versus the Rain Squad, you kind of want to have Amoonguss handy. It is kind of the way that you're incentivizing the Salazzle to go ahead and use this Overheat and Eject Pack here. So extreme speed, Overheat, just to go ahead and clear out the Amoonguss. Tauros came in to intimidate the Dragonite, which may slow it down a little bit, but we're still having to, they still get a free pivot in through the Eject Pack. Stomping Tantrum going to go through onto the Floatzel. Does a decent chunk of damage, but not going to be threatening a knockout anytime soon. Pelipper coming in, as Magnezone hits a Protect, Tauros going to use Rock Slide to get some chip damage and clear out the multi-scale from Dragonite, but unfortunately activating the weakness policy that Ryu's actually been favoring for these past couple of weeks. Earthquake comes in, does a ton of damage to Tauros, so the Intimidate's just kind of gone to waste. Magnezone going to try and resist though using Terra Flying to avoid the Earthquake. Tauros going to try and get some additional damage down with Rock Slide, but misses on the Dragonite. Earthquake just going to go ahead and finish the job out on Tauros, and now it's up to the Magnezone to try and salvage the game. Now, it does use Thunder to try and take advantage of the rain, clear out the Pelipper here. Titan comes in, tries to Ice Shard the Dragonite to clear it out, but smartly it Terra Steals to resist the Ice Shard, and then just clears this Titan out through Iron Head. So this is continuing to be disastrous few turns for Whatshamitt, as Ryu's preparation just comes through and just puts him in prime position to just clear out the game. So far, 3 Pokemon still alive that he has to that Whatshamitt has to deal with, and Magnezone just can't do it on his own. Even with the Terra Flying, avoiding the Earthquake, having to deal with a Floatzel and Rain, gets a one-hit KO through the Wave Crash. So well prepped and well played through Ryu. I like some of the ideas from both players here. Just unfortunately, what I thought personally would have been a little bit of a mismatch if if the rain strategies came through. Fortunately, Dragonite's just able to make up for any weaknesses of the team and actually put on the most pressure inside the entire game. And also shout outs to Salazzle, because we also scouted out that Amoonguss would be a huge player to resist the Rain Squad here, and Salazzle, as I mentioned during the analysis of the matchup, just came in like super clutch to just quickly deal with the Amoonguss, even with the Covert Cloak, and then also the Overheat Eject Pack. It's actually a legitimate thing to be able to help it reposition into another Pokemon like the Stonjourner, who then boosts the power of the Pokemon that you have in currently. So yeah, really good preparation from both sides, and in my opinion, even though the games are short, really fun games to watch. I'm impressed. All right, the last matchup for this week that we'll get through is Darkbadger versus Treedolphin. And I'm gonna be honest, just looking at this at a glance, this looks a little bit tougher to call than some of the other games, just as far as how advantageous the matchup is for either player here. Um, on Darkbadger's side, obviously they have the dancer combo that we saw in the first game of the first week for them, where they're positioned to do pretty good damage overall into the team, particularly Volcarona, depending on what type of terror it goes for. Getting stabbed, bug buzz to deal with Meowscarada, and also having access to Giga Drain to eventually deal with Palafin, and also threatening the burn on other Pokemon if they want to use like knockoff or jet punch onto them is just valuable on a base level. But as far as like positioning, Darkbadger's team being that much slower than Treedolphin's, typically you want to set up like a trick room, but I think that's a hard ask considering Meowscarada and Palafin are just that powerful. You could use something like Rage Powder to help set up the trick room if you really wanted to, but I think there's an incentive there to run a more offensive variant of Volcarona. King Gambit's also something that could work pretty well into the team too, being naturally immune to like the Sludge Bomb from Toxtricity, resistant to Meowscarada's attacks, and having pretty hefty defense to fend off Palafin for a while too. My main issue here is that I don't think either team from their strongest players have a clean way to remove the other team's strongest players from the field, making it look kind of wonky. So I think this is the game I'm a little bit more excited to watch this time around, just because so much is shrouded in mystery. I want to see what's on the player's mind. Quite honestly, I don't have a clear answer on what I'd like to see from either player. All right, so we got game one. Darkbadger has selected Rotom-Mow, Morgrem, Jumpluff, Oricorio, Volcarona, and King Gambit, where Treedolphin has selected Palafin, Bisharp, Meowscarada, Toxtricity, Sableye, and Primeape. So let's just go ahead and get straight into it. On Treedolphin's side, leading off their strongest two players, Palafin and Meowscarada, whereas Darkbadger's opted for King Gambit and Morgrem. Immediately gonna Terra Fairy and use Fake Out into the Meowscarada. I am expecting a Terra Blast here for a Terra this early along with the Fake Out, knowing that the Palafin's gonna switch out. And yep, there it is. So one turn knockout for Darkbadger into the Meowscarada. Toxtricity is going to take its place, whereas Palafin swapped out into the Sableye. Fake Out aimed at King Gambit is going to find Volcarona instead. No burn from the Flame Body, unfortunately. Morgrem gonna set up Light Screen to try and resist the Toxtricity, but the Sludge Bomb still does a huge chunk of damage, possibly a Choice Spec Zone variant here. Quash coming out, but it's not going to affect the Morgrem being out since Prankster versus a Dark type. Doesn't matter too much as the Sludge Bomb aimed into the Volcarona is going to KO it, but Foul Play into the Toxtricity is going to take it out for a 1-to-1 trade here. Rotom-Mow comes in and Palafin is coming in to try to save the game. Terra Waters to boost its damage. There's a decent chunk into the Rotom-Mow, but it's a resisted hit. And now that the Reflect is up, it's going to struggle to do some more damage, even with the Rain boost here. Still going to struggle a little bit. Now, importantly, the Rotom-Mow gets off a burn at the very end of the turn. So behind a Reflect and with the burn, even with Rain and Terra Water, the Palafin is just going to be hard pressed for damage. The Foul Play though and the Thunderbolt going to clean up the KO. The Quash not really doing too much if the Palafin jet punches, because it'll just go move ahead of it. So this looks like a full utility Sableye. And there's the forfeit here. Utility or not, Sableye versus 3 whole Pokemon, pretty healthy. Seems like a pretty lost cause here. So we're just gonna go ahead and move on to game 2. Try to make some adjustments and claw their way back here. All right, Pokeballs are out, and Palafin and Primeape this time coming in from Treedolphin, leading Morgrem and Volcarona this time from Darkbadger. Immediately we see a Terra Grass from the Volcarona, a Fake Out into the Palafin. Is this going to be a repeat play? It is. Fake Out plus move equals dead Pokemon. So immediately not respecting the Fake Out or not having a potentially to deal with the fake out. It's leading into double ups that are getting an easy KO for Darkbadger at the beginning parts of these turns, which is is putting Treedolphin so far on the back foot here. Volcarona gonna use Bug Buzz to bring Meowscarada down to Sash, while Primate's just gonna take another bulk up. Foul play, Bug Buzz foul play is gonna clean up the Meowscarada, so now is down to Sableye and a 2 bulked up Primate here. Fake Out gonna aim for the Morgan before it can get a Reflect up. Giga Drain from the Volcarona is going to do a decent chunk into the Primate. Primate's going to knock it out with the Drain Punch, but not before taking a burn on the way out for Volcarona. So that's disastrous. The +2 that it just got is going to kind of go to waste due to that burn. And now that the Reflect is up, Primate's going to have a hard time dealing damage to either of these two Pokemon. We saw how bulky the Rotom-Mow was at the end of last game after the burn and Reflect was up versus the Palafin. So with Primate, you know, a less strong Pokemon here, being burned and having to dig through Reflect, it's at a huge deficit. Morgrem and Rotom still pretty healthy, gonna pick up the knockout on the Primate. And we already know the Sableye, it's not up to the task, even if it weren't a full utility Pokemon right now. It just can't burn through 3 whole Pokemon, especially ones as healthy as this. So yeah, Darkbadger with, you know, really good preparation into this matchup. Understanding like how Meowscarada and Palafin were going to be, you know, huge players in them being physical. You know, having the Reflect and the burn up to, you know, disable whatever they could do at any part of the game, but also with the fake out and the early Terras to pick up the KOs, I believe was a huge momentum grab that Treedolphin just couldn't swing back into their favor at any point in the game. So really well done. That's going to end the week. All matches were 2-0s, aside from mine. Ha ha ha. We went to game 3. But yeah, these were overall like pretty interesting games to watch. Again, with this particular matchup, Darkbadger and Treedolphin, like a lot I thought was, you know, in the dark. There were a lot of strategies that could be pulled out here. Darkbadger though went for just really solid plays here, like leading off with the fake outs, trying to get the heavy aggression on with the early Terras to, you know, get quick knockouts, and, you know, that just set them up for a success. They could start to trade Pokemon back and forth, and end up with a end game where they're just, you know, at full advantage, even if they lose their own one of their own Pokemon, right? It didn't help that Treedolphin had a Sableye that was trying to support the team, but it was full utility, so no damage coming out from them at any point. And then the Quash, you know, loses effectiveness versus something like Morgrem or even King Gambit if it had stayed in as a dark type Pokemon. So yeah, just based on what was selected, a little bit of a mismatch there, but like overall from the squad, it could have gone either way. Either way, fun stuff for this week. We'll be going into week 4 pretty soon. After that, what I'm intending to do is, you know, kind of a mid-season checkup, see how the standings match up with my initial analysis from the start of the season. So look forward to that. Either way, hope you had as much fun as I did. So as usual, leave a like, leave a comment. Don't mind if you subscribe or not. It's all good to me. Go about your business, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.